we don't always have to be perfect, that it don't always have to look pretty, because we serve a God who loves us despite of the failures in our life. We serve a God who wants to continue to use us, right, despite how many times we fall. And I don't know about you, but I'm somebody, like I said, I fall a lot. I am very, very human. There's been many times in my life where I've had to ask somebody for a second chance. Whether it be my brother, my parents, a friend, a girlfriend, going to God and asking Him for a second chance. Like, there's been many times in my life where I have screwed up. And I'm sure there's going to be many more times in my life where I screw up. And I find myself back asking for that second chance. And it's just, it warms my heart to know that we serve a God that it doesn't matter how many times I fall short. I can go to Him and I can be in prayer with Him, in relationship with Him, and He's going to love me for who I am. And this morning we're going to look at a story of a guy who also really needed a second chance. We're going to look at a story of a guy who you probably know, you've heard of. His name was Jonah. Jonah, I love the book of Jonah in the Old Testament, and that's where we're going to land today. And you might know the story of Jonah as the story of the dude in the big fish. Right? That is what that's how we learn it growing up through Sunday school. Like Jonah, he was swallowed by the fish, right? And all this, and we tie him to the big fish and everything he did. But when we look into this story, when we read this story, we're going to see this morning that it's a lot more than just a dude and a fish. That when you look at this story, you see a story about a really big God. A God who is merciful, a God who is patient, and a God who is determined to rescue His people. And here in this story, His people being Jonah. You see, throughout the story, if you read it, you know it. Jonah tries to go his own way. He kind of tries to shut the door on God and say, all right, God, you want me to do this, but I don't, so I'm going to do what I want to do. Right? And Jonah, we find him trying to go his own way, right? Like following the path he has for himself, and it nearly destroys him. He finds himself in a lot of trouble. He finds himself in really a life and death situation. And we see him deep in his failure. But even in that failure, God reveals to Jonah His grace. Through the failure of Jonah, we get to see the mercy and the persistence of God. And we get to see a God who will not stop from doing everything He can do to have us continue the mission He has for us. And as we gather here this morning, I believe that is good news for us today. That no matter how many times we falter, no matter how many times we go our own way, although we may run into storms, we serve a God who is going to pull us out of those storms. We serve a God who is going to lift us out of the hard times that we face.